Hello, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, this is Ask Rob and Rob, and we are back with another question. Or at least a comment this week, and you'll see soon why. We, each week, will listen to what you have to say, and then we'll answer. And for a twist, Rob, we've been told off. But before we get there, if you'd like to tell us off, hopefully not, but hopefully you'd like to ask us a question, then please do so, and we make it very, very simple.
Yes, we do. All you've got to do is leave us a voicemail. Two ways of doing that. You could either call 013 808 000 35, that's 013 808 000 35, or you can go to thepropertyhub.net/podcast, and you'll see a little icon in the sidebar where you can record your message to us. Just leave us a voicemail with your question or your comment, and we will answer it on a future episode. I don't think we can delay it any further, though. Let's listen to what Tim has to say this week.
Hi, Robs. Just wanted to say a quick thank you for the podcast. I very much appreciate that you give up your time to help those new to property investment, and the advice you both give and the way that you give it is fantastic. Having said all that, I do have one small bugbear that I would like to just mention. Why is it that some people seem to be proud of the fact that they are unable to change a light bulb when it comes to DIY or the basic mechanics of how buildings are built and maintained? Your mantra, and quite correctly so, is education, education with regard to property investment. This should not stop at a basic knowledge, at least of building principles and property repair. It will save you money choosing a reliable and fit-for-purpose contractor. It may help you choose a better property, spot defects and additional costs at an early stage. It may help in assessing how best to add value to a property to increase the potential for that ever-important income. At the very least, when you demonstrate knowledge to a contractor, they are less likely to add more zeros to your final bill. At least Rob D recognises the basic importance of a Reader's Digest DIY manual. Whilst I don't suggest everybody retrains as a builder or plumber, this type of knowledge is another tool in your property developing tool belt. Being weak in a field so fundamental to what you trade in makes no sense.
Ouch, Tim. Oh, I'm sorry. We're in trouble, Rob. Right. Tim, I think you make some interesting points. And I can see, for some people, while they'd be valid. But to be fair to you, Tim, you may have not listened to all the podcasts and know exactly what we do and how we operate. So I'm going to give you the benefit of doubt and just give you a bit of background to how I, and then Rob can add to it on how he runs his portfolio. But it's similar. I'd say it's similar. Although not the same, it's similar. I don't look at properties. I can't remember the last property I bought where I went to see it before I bought it. I certainly don't do any refurbs. I target properties that don't need any work now and are unlikely to need them in the future. I focus on systems and people and put my energy into having the right people around me and having the right systems in place so I don't have to. Because I think the key lesson is, Tim, is focus on what you're good at. If you are a handyman and you like it and you're good at that, then I applaud you. It's a skill set I simply don't have. What I'm good at is very different. And that doesn't mean my way is less effective and I certainly get done over by contractors because I don't know how to rewire a house. But equally, it doesn't mean your way's wrong either. It's just different for different people. I'm very, very hands-off because I have a lot of things going on and I don't want my portfolio getting in the way of my life. So to me, it's just never been a need. And safe to say, after doing this for 10 plus years, it's not hurt me yet. So having good systems and having good people, and most importantly, focusing on what you're good at is the best approach. I believe double down on what you're good at, put all your energy into that rather than trying to work on your weaknesses.
Well, I'll play peacemaker here because, Rob, I absolutely agree with you. I see what Tim's saying as well. I don't disagree with any of it. I think all else being equal, if you could have a knowledge of DIY and construction as well as everything else, then that would be great. But Rob, I completely agree with what you have to say about focusing on your strengths. You're completely at peace with not being able to do DIY and you're just not interested in it. I wish I could do it. I do feel like it would be helpful, but it's far more beneficial for me to focus on other things that I'm naturally stronger at. So while I have bought properties that need a whole lot of work doing to them before they can be occupied, I've got round that by making sure that in my network, I've got people who I trust 100% who can tell me what needs to be done and manage the whole process for me. And that's just a different strength. It's a skill in networking and in analysis and all that kind of thing. It's just a different way of solving the problem. And that's the thing. There are always different ways of accomplishing any given thing. And like you said, Rob, no approach is right or wrong. But I think knowing how to play to your strengths, both in terms of setting your strategy in the first place so that it plays to your strengths and in having ways to work around your weaknesses once you're in business is really, really important. And it can be hard to appreciate other people's way of doing things. I'm sure we have lots of people screaming at us on a weekly basis about some of the things that we do or don't do, but you've just got to go with whatever works for you.
You have, and this is a valuable lesson to everyone. You can go to meetups and networking events where people will try and pass their strategy and their way of doing things onto you as the best way. And it might be the best way for you, but unless they really understand you and know who you are and what you're trying to achieve, it might not be. So just because one person does something one way and it's successful for them doesn't mean it's going to be successful for you. And this is a very much broader topic now, but I think it's something to bear in mind, because in property and in life, we get very fixated on our way of doing things, particularly if we've seen some success as the best way. And it's not. The way I do property investment and the way the investors I work with property investment is very hands-off, because the people I work with are just busy, who just don't have the time or don't want to commit the time to property. And that's absolutely fine. But then there's people who are all over property, they're around there every day, they can spot opportunities, and that's great too, but they've invested their time. So just remember, when someone says, this is the way I do it and therefore you should, it might be, but it might not be. Just because they've seen success that way, just question it and think, well, would this fit my goals, my strategy? Always be grateful for the advice, as we're grateful to you, Tim, for your comments. Just make sure that you understand the other person and what their objectives are. So, if you'd like to tell us off for anything else, we start a trend now, tell Rob and Rob off podcast, feel free. But also feel free to ask us any questions. I know, Tim, your question there hopefully has provided a lot of value to a lot of people, because I think it's a really interesting point. So thank you.
And this exact issue is why we do what we call the Property Hub Summit and why we do it in the way that we do. Because you can go to lots of property training, but when you do, if there's just one person at the front of the room talking, you'll get to hear what they think you should do, which may or may not be right for you. But at the summit, we spend the day with 16 property investors and we all workshop each other's challenges, situations, goals together. And that means that rather than just kind of coming along and being lectured by us in what we should do, you can get input from lots of different people. And that's where the real value of it is. It's about having a group of peers, all who are coming at things from a different angle and can suggest different ideas that one person would never have thought of. So if you are at a point where you think it would be useful to get some personal advice from a bunch of smart property investors, see if we've got a Property Hub Summit coming up. We only do a few of them per year and they do tend to sell out quite quickly, but go to thepropertyhub.net/summit. You'll see the dates that are coming up and you can see if it's going to be for you. But whether you come to a summit or whether you go to meetups or are on forums, however you do it, having a network of people who have different viewpoints, different skills, different strengths is really important, and it will make you a far more effective investor without having to do everything on your own.
So make sure you check that out, and if there are any tickets available, get along and join us. And make sure you join us on Thursday as well for our next podcast, and of course next Tuesday for Ask Rob and Rob. But until then, have a wonderful day everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.